Welcome. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be playing Guild Wars 1, a, 13-year-old game. Give me just a second, let me turn down the in-game volume on this. Effects are too loud still. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, the reason why we're coming back to this game is because there's an event going on right now called Wayfair's Revile, and I'm doing the Tyrian one right now, where we go to different locations in Tyria, and that is the core game. It's this entire map. Well, not this part and this part, but everything else. We're going around the map to basically see all of these locations. The reason for that is so that we can get a proof of each of the campaigns to trade in for things like this mini pet, which you can't see because of the oil, or this summoning crystal, which allows you to summon Ritlock Brimstone in the core game, base game. He's a little summon stone. It's not that hard to get, but not a lot of people know about him because nobody plays Guild Wars 1 that often. And it's just a interesting thing. I'm doing it this time because I have the stone and the mini pet already, which I can now show you guys right here. And it's literally just Ritlock Brimstone as a mini pet. I'm coming for the tonic, and you can use the tonic in combat areas, which is something that most tonics in this game can't do. I know I'm using one right now where I'm become the Mad King, which is the Halloween guy, but that's just because when they introduced the infinite use tonics in year 6 of the game, which was 2011, they implemented them to be usable in combat areas, mostly because like the tonics before now would turn you into like ice lodestones. No, not ice lodestones, ice elementals and candy corn elementals, which were impractical for combat because they had to model it to hold your weapon or whatever. With these, they modeled them to hold your weapon, so it's able to, what's it called? Allow you to use them in combat areas. Right now we're going to one of the most prevalent areas in the charr, the Flame Legion. I'm going to a kind of a citadel, but it's not a citadel, you know? This is where Athea, which was Rurik's wife-to-be, was captured and burnt alive by the Flame Legion and the charr. It's a pretty sad story. If you had played Guild Wars 1 and like had even noticed this, it would be amazing, because not very many people know about it. In Guild Wars 2, there is a ascended trinket you can equip called Athea's Ashes, which are directly related to a quest in this area called Athea's Ashes. And it's pretty straightforward. You take Athea's Ashes to her final resting place, where she was killed by the charr, or something like that. It's really strange. I might be botching this and messing it up, but that's how I understood it. I'm sure you can get more insight from looking on the wiki. We're just mowing through these charr right now because I'm level 20 and have a Discord build on, and level 20 is max in Guild Wars 1. And these guys, you can see, are level 8, so they're not even close to being able to fight me back. I believe that this is the area? No, this isn't the area. I think it's Pike Square, where the Flame Legion have their citadel. No, wait, it is this area. Is it? It's really weird. It's really strange, because in the pre-scenery, you can come up here to death level your character to fight charr to reach level 20 in the pre-area for Guild Wars 1 core, which was really difficult. But you would come up through here. I believe this is the area. You would come up through here and you would see like 4 charr, like elite charr that were here, and they were getting ready to cast the seering. And in pre, you can come up here and do this, but the thing was, they were level 16 at the time, and like the highest level you could get to was about 8 or 9, and like 6 levels above you is just asking to be killed. So this is Athea's final resting place in the story. So this is why we were coming to this spot. The first spot I went to was the seering crystal right here. But like I did that while my recording station was recharging. Next we're going to go to Kezik's Peak, and I believe we're going to go here because we're going to look at the Wizard's Tower. So we look at our log and it's like, yep, Wizard's Tower. So we scroll out, come over here, and the closest place to it would be Temple of Aegis, which is generally the best idea to start from because you can have 8 people in your party. Let's take some people I don't take very often, like Miku, Pyre. I actually don't take any of the rangers because there's no need for them, but I'm going to take 1 ranger, Thackeray, Mox. I actually don't take Mox that often. I usually take Kamu, but like all 3 of them have the same build. But I like Kamu's design so much better. Alright. Oh, I forgot I gave you the Phoenix. Awesome. And like your Thackeray's running an actual build. I had him using his bow when I first got him because I'm like, why would he ever become a Paragon? That makes no sense to me, but like, he has his reasons, and I don't really care. He, in the story, Thackeray definitely was a ranger before he became a Paragon, but something happened when he went out with his troop to fight off the charr in their homelands, and they ended up killing everybody but Thackeray, I believe. I don't remember because this is like a good number of years. Like I'm saying like maybe 6 or 7 years. Like just before Guild Wars 2 came out was when I did his story. Anyways, we find Logan Thackeray, he comes back alive, and Gwen ends up marrying him or whatever. What is Pyre running? Poison build. And then Mox's Wounding Strike. No, he's Poison Revel. Okay. Poisonous Renewal. Like, as you can see, like, if you've played Guild Wars 2, this place looks so much different. There's not all these hills that are right here, which would be, and there's a camp right about here or so? Yeah, right about here that you would go into before you would come into this area. And then this entire area was like this part. And it's a little weird. Come down here, and there'd be another camp, like, right about here-ish. We got oak hearts over here. Pretty, not a common enemy in Guild Wars 2, but, like, an enemy you see in quite the number of areas. These are an enemy you don't see anymore in Guild Wars. Why are you pacified? Be on the guard. In case you don't know what's going on with these NPC characters, they're known as heroes, which was a major selling point when Nightfall came out in year 3. And all, what they are is that they're henchmen, and let me explain henchmen real fast. Henchmen in the base 2 games were NPCs that you can put into your party so that you didn't have to wait for real people to help you all the time. The problem with that was they were extremely difficult to micromanage, and literally all you can do was use this one thing, put them over there, or all of them go here. You only had one. And with the introduction to heroes in Nightfall, like, you get a hero immediately. Cost becomes your first hero, I believe. And you got to be able to place your heroes one by one. So it was important who was the first hero in your party and who was the second and the third, so you can do this with them. And then move the others over here, and then make them all come back to their default positions. And so that was a major selling point for heroes. For Nightfall, I mean. The difference between heroes and henchmen, though, heroes were basically player characters that you can equip yourself. Like, just for example, this guy, he's got a green weapon, which was the highest tier, and he's got a special set of gear that I have on him so that he can specialize in the thing that I need him to do. Same with him, he's got a special weapon, she's got a special weapon, he's got a special weapon, she's got a special weapon. Though I didn't change her weapon because, like, it's already good. It's what you want on a assassin anyways. And then him, he's got a special weapon, things like that. You can't change his armor because he's special. Same for him and Miku. You can't change any of their armor. But his armor is super special because later in the game you can change his armor by collecting a certain token. Anyways, on top of that, you can also change their skills. That's why I said earlier that I was running Discord. It's a special setup where you take advantage of having a lot of hexes and condition damage spells so that your Discord hero can do this, like do 100 damage. And as you can see here, me as just being a caster at level 20, I have roughly 600 health. Look how fast that recharged. That was 2 seconds. If that was me, I would be dead in at least 10 seconds, at the very least. And that's not on top of the fact that I would have to be under a condition or a hex. Like, that skill only works if you have a condition or a hex on you. And conditions are fairly the same in Guild Wars 2 as they are in Guild Wars 1. There's bleeding, there's fire, burning, but there's a couple that aren't in Guild Wars 2, like decapitation, which cut your health in. What it was is that you couldn't heal past 75% of your maximum health. Like, it was cut off from you for a certain amount of time. And another condition that isn't prevalent in Guild Wars 2 is disease, which acted like poison, but if you were standing near one of your allies that had poison on them, not poison, disease on them, you would also get the disease. And then if your disease ran out, but somebody else still had disease, it would go back on you, and it would just cycle through until, like, they weren't standing next to you. Like, they had to be fairly close. They had to be, like, standing, like, almost on top of you for the disease to get you. But the point being, like, it would cycle through everybody until it was mass cleansed or that somebody stopped standing next to you. Like, so you saw it just a moment ago, but, like, here it is. Like, there it is. You have -4 health. Oh, that's poison. That's just straight up poison. I was wrong. I thought that was disease. I am an idiot. Never mind. That's because we were standing in the poison swamp. That's why. I probably should have taken a monk with me. I'll do that in the next area. I'll actually form a real party. These are also shades, and you don't see them quite as often in Guild Wars 2. I think they're in a few areas. And also these, like alloys, allo, whatever they're called. You don't see them that often either. I don't think you see them at all. Shades sometimes, like I think they just use the scale model for shades, but I can't remember. I can't exactly remember a place where I've seen them. It's like, yeah, but this is a part of the Tarnished Coast area, and like Fisherman Haven, which is right here. When the sea rose, this all of this became surrounded by water. When the sea rose, when the water dragon woke up, Steve the water dragon, I'm gonna use a key on this. We got a purple weapon. It's not that good. You generally never want to keep anything that isn't like max. It's like always my rule when it comes to these games. Like, if it isn't good and you're already at max level, just delete it or something. Nice. Darkshire. Dark Shrieker? It's important that I have the Caesarean scan hex so that my Livia can Discord properly. Because it's really hard to get rid of this skill, because it's not that it lasts forever, it lasts like 12 seconds, but the recharge is 5. So even if they hex break it, which is like a 12-second cooldown, they have to wait 12 seconds before they can do that. And after 5, I already have the hex back on them. Granted, she could have casted 2 to 3 discords by then, but the point being, the hex will be on them fairly quickly. Now, if I was doing Guild Wars Beyond, this area would be absolutely filled with oppressors, which are a white mantle type. I'm sure you've seen them if you play Guild Wars 2 in the recent years, because they were just recently added back into the story. There were some things hinting at white mantle during what's it called? During even the early years in Cardicus Manor. Everybody like figured Cardicus was kind of a cuck, but we didn't really get confirmation about that until like halfway through the personal story. If you chose to become an Order of Whispers, Lady Beetleton wants to leave Cardicus, which is her father, Cardicus Beetleton. I know it sounds weird, like Cardicus sounds like a last name, but it's not. His name is Cardicus Beetleton, and he's the heir to the Beetleton, what's it called? He's like a duke, I should say. He's not royalty, but like, he's with the up and ups. And I believe the Beetletons were dukes. Or like, in some sense. And you find out that he's up to some shady shit, and you anticipate that it's White Mantle, but the White Mantle hadn't been prevalent in Crida regions for like a long time. Almost 2,000 years-ish. Long time. Which is where Guild Wars 2 started. 200 years after the events of Guild Wars 1. So all the events that players are doing right now in Guild Wars 1 are inherently happening in the past, so it's history. And I personally have completed all of the living world, quote-unquote, which was Guild Wars Beyond, for 3 of the 4 expansions. The 4th one didn't get there beyond. They stopped doing that when Guild Wars 2 came out and became a huge success. But the Guild Wars 2, the Guild Wars 1 Beyond for Nightfall, which was the one that didn't get their Guild Wars Beyond, was going to be about Joko's rise to power in Ilona after the events of Cormyr, which is a dick, by the way. I do not like Cormyr. And I'll explain that in just a moment. But like after the events of Nightfall and Cormyr becomes a god, Joko rises to power. That's partially the player character's fault in Guild Wars 1, because we help him regain power of his awakened soldiers, just so that we can go stop Abaddon, which inherently was a bigger threat at the time. But even in Guild Wars 2, Joko is exactly what his name suggests, a fucking joke. Joko is no threat. Sure, he's kind of a dick and undead and lives forever, but you can kill things that are immortal. We did that to a god recently. Spoilers on Guild Wars 2 lore, but we killed a god recently. We had also killed 2 elder dragons, which were perceived to be immortal because of their high, immense, magical, innate abilities. That was a lot of words. Oh yeah. Look at it in all of its majesty. Anyways, so the reason why I don't like Cormyr, as a person or a god, is because the entire story is not focused on her. It's focused on you, the player character, stopping Abaddon. And during one of the final missions, you get in contact with the other 5 gods and you ask them for help, and they're like, we can't do anything about this. And I'm like, fuck you guys. We'll do something about this. And they straight up tell Cormyr and the player character, it is a choice that only a mortal can make. So that implies that gods are immortal anyways. And the choice is absorbing all of Abaddon's knowledge and power and becoming a god yourself. Now, the player character doesn't do this, for obvious reasons, because if the player character had become a god at the end of an MMO, where the end game is to keep playing the game, we wouldn't be able to play the game because we would be a god at that point. So I understand it from that perspective. Why is everybody not doing anything? What is going on with my heroes? Oh, Apprentice of Vernara. That's a damage type in Guild Wars 2. It was it's Vipers. It's condition damage. That's interesting. Anyways, the thing that Cormyr does is that she does the thing, quote unquote, that only a mortal can. She does the thing that, like, she makes the choice that only a mortal can make, and so you don't get to become a god. You don't become the hero of the story. No, you get tossed aside, and it's like, here's a green weapon for you. Also, did you bring materials for armor? No? We'll do it again. And it's just... yeah. Cormyr, I don't like Cormyr. I don't... If I was a Tyrian, I wouldn't worship her as a god, because as the god of truth, she's a fucking liar. God, there's a lot of people here. And I definitely should have brought a monk for this. Oh, what happened? Oh, okay. For some reason my game froze and glitched out there. Oh well, it's fine now. I don't have to worry about dying, because if we do die, we just res at the start of the area. Definitely need to take care of you. Anyways, Vetra, the reason why he's got armor named after him, and it's Ascended armor, by the way, like, you look at the thing for Ascended armor, it's like made in the style of Veritra. It's condition damage because it's based on necromancy. And look at all those fucking minions they have. Holy lord. And necromancers are broken in Guild Wars 1 because they can generate theoretically infinite undead. Not really. But the amount of minions that they can possess is so much bigger than Guild Wars is 2. But, like, I understand why Guild Wars 2 can't do that sort of thing. Because they would basically be their own army at that point. Now, Guild Wars 2's Minion Mancy, not that strong. Like, your bone minions, they're rats. And that's not cool. My bone minions look like these guys. That's a bone minion. Doesn't have eyes though. And then those, I like the Whip Devourer minion. It looks really cool and I like the design of it. The Shade, however, don't like that too much. And the Golem, don't get me started on the Flesh Golem, because that shit does not look like a Flesh Golem. In Guild Wars 2, it looks way cooler. I'll change Ulyss's skill so you can see what it looks like. It's pretty cool. Here's what the icon looks like, though. Like, I can show you that. It looks really weird. Flesh Golem, yeah. It was a, this was not added until Nightfall came out. Not Nightfall, Factions. Factions is what made, like, Minion Mancy so cool. Because they got this skill. Later on in, what's it fucking called? Nightfall, we got Shambling Horrors, which were also really cool, because it was like having 2 minions in one. Because you would summon the first minion, which was a flesh minion, and then once that minion died, a Bone Reaver came out that did additional stuff. Like, it dealt more damage, and it inflicted bleeding when it attacked. Shambling Horror, when it dies, replace it with a Jagged Horror that inflicts bleeding when it attacks. It's really cool. Okay, so we're gonna pull these guys one at a time. We're gonna use a Summon Stone. No, I've already been playing for 1 hour, jeez. Doesn't feel like it. I'll stop the video at this next part. After I get to Wizard's Folly. Get rid of all these minions. Now, I'm not picking up any of these items because I don't really need them. Mostly because, like, these are salvageable items, and you would generally just use them to get salvage, and you would use them to craft yourself armor and weapons and stuff, just like Guild Wars 2. Except it's better to go for loot drops, like this thing. Where is it at? Like this thing. Like, the only reason why people do, go for loot drops instead of crafting their own weapons, because you can get cool stuff like this. And I love this weapon. I don't have good stats on it, though. Well, I mean, I got perfect stats, like 20 and 10%, which is perfect. Point being, I don't use it because it's not this weapon or this weapon. Well, I'll hover over those so you can gauge them. The reason why I have this wand equipped, it looks like a sword, is because it's specifically designed for elementalists. It's like, look at the requirements. Either 9 energy, 9 air, 9 earth, 9 fire, 9 water. Those are all elementalists. And there it is, in all of its glory. Wizard's Tower. I'm gonna take a screenshot real fast, and then I'll end the video off. Well, that's it for now. I'll see you next time.